It's been 6 months already, 6 months since the launch of Google Stadia, and well, it's had its fair shares of up and downs in the last 6 months, and from a technical standpoint, it's been damn near flawless for a lot of people, myself included, but it's not to say that Google and Stadia alike have been out of the woods just yet and have been proven innocent, because there are a lot of things we can nitpick over the last 6 months. So we're here to give you a grade, because today is the official mark of 6 months of Google Stadia being officially live in the world, and we're going to let you know if it's worth A, B, C, D, or F, and if it's worth your time and your investment for the next 6 months. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click subscribe, get yourself notified and up to date when we go live with new content here on the channel. That includes new videos every week and also includes some live streams we do on the weekends. It includes the TSI, the Stadia Initiative podcast we do every 2 weeks. We just had our 3rd episode, which you can find in a link tweet. Damn it. And a link right above here. I always get that wrong, by the way. You can find that at any time here on the channel every 2 weeks. May 29th at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time will be our next episode of the Stadia Initiative. Of course, that features Chase from Stadia Talk, Eddie from Stadia Player One, Meg, also known as Megatron X, Jermani, as known as 64 here on YouTube, and then MM2K of Stadia Dosage. You can find us all every 2 weeks. And of course, you can also find their channels down in the description below. So enough of the housekeeping. Google Stadia has been out for 6 months, so I think it's time we give that awesome grade of how they've been doing and kind of break it down a little bit from a much bigger standpoint than we have in the past, and kind of talk about the very individual things that they have done right and done wrong. So back on November 19, 2019, Google Stadia launched in 14 countries to a somewhat weird reception. While the service has typically been lauded from a technical standpoint, there have been others that claim to have a less than stellar experience. When personal reviews were given, such as mine back in November, the experience via a Chromecast Ultra was flawless, but my PC had initial issues that I ran into. Hardware acceleration and a less than stellar router were among my initial problems, and troubleshooting was and is required for a lot of people out there. One of my general complaints about Google's approach in totality with Stadia, but we are getting a little ahead of ourselves. Because while I just stated the release date of Stadia was November 19th of 2019, and I did pre-order the Founders Edition, I didn't receive the Founders Edition for 2 whole days. And not only that, it took even longer to get the actual code to start playing on Google Stadia, which you needed before you needed the controller and the Chromecast, because without that code, you're useless. You can't play on Google Stadia, and that was a huge misstep, and I went over it in one of my first videos about Google Stadia months back when this wasn't even Club Stadia back then. So it's something that was a huge driving point for a lot of people in the community in terms of things that were really cheesing them off, and that was one of them for me, because I wanted to play this new platform. I wanted to see how it was, how this magic could actually work. But that was a huge problem back then, and it was just kind of a look into the crystal ball, if you will, of the communication or lack thereof that Google Stadia would employ for the next couple months. And that's kind of our first point here, and one of the very big negative points that Stadia had in general. And still a work in progress, yes, but we are getting weekly updates, sometimes more than once a week, in terms of things that Google is coming out and telling us. They're sharing certain roadmaps, but as of now, we only had a roadmap for Q1. We still don't have a Q2 roadmap. Of course, we don't have anything else in the summer past that as well. But the thing here, and I guess they get a pass for this a little bit, is because of what's going on in the world. So maybe some things are being interfered with due to that. But the communication side was horrible from the start. So back during the launch of Stadia, we had pretty much next to nothing when it came to communication. No roadmaps at the time. We had no idea when these features that were promised back in March at the GDC conference in 2019, like the YouTube integration and like stuff like Stream Connect and things like crowd play and crowd choice and all these certain things that we were expecting to be a part of the Stadia platform just wasn't there yet. And even to this day, we still don't know when some of these features will be here. Now, a lot of these features do depend on developers implementing them, yes. However, some of them are on a Google platform itself, or on a Google side rather, and they have to enable it. It's not necessarily a thing on some developers. So Stream Connect does appear in Ubisoft games, but a lot of other things don't. And another thing that was rough in the beginning was things like Ask Me Anythings over on Reddit, where a lot of tiptoeing was done around certain questions. And of course, they had a lot of stay tuned attitudes when it came to when's this going to show up and what kind of features can we expect then and all this kind of jazz. And it just did not come off right. So not only that, but from the holiday season, so Christmas, New Year's, we had no communication. Now, if you're following this channel and other channels like my channel, you were probably aware of this if you were following us back during the holidays, that we went weeks without anything from the Google Stadia team. We got like nothing in regards to tweets in terms of things that are coming in the future. No Reddit updates, which we had been getting for a little while at that point. Nothing on the Discords. So everything was just silent. And this was a big problem. And a lot of people on the outside look at this as, oh, Google's already given up because we know all about the Google graveyard and how everything, they just throw up their hands and say, we quit. Now, if you're really paying attention, you know that's not going to happen with Google Stadia, but that's not here or there. This is the first 6 months, and at the time, they may have had something there because why was Google being quiet? And they did mention, okay, it's the holidays, everyone's taking some time off. I get that. I understand it. I respect it, and good. You should do that. I love that companies are very mindful of their employees getting time to spend with their family during the holidays because it's a very awesome time during the year. It's my favorite time of the year is the Christmas and New Year's holiday, all that stuff. Also not here or there, but awesome move on Google's part. Not an awesome move on Google's part is keeping that line of communication open, letting us know when can we expect people to kind of trickle back in and talk to us, because this is a gaming community. And if you know anything about gaming communities, we do need that kind of communication. We need the ability to keep learning of these new things, especially a brand new one, and one that has not done well in the public eye as it is. So we do need some of that help from you, Google Stadia, to kind of give us the idea of, okay, so if someone's asking about this and we're like, well, I don't know. I mean, Stadia says nothing. So how am I supposed to know? So, I mean, that's the problem here. And that's what's been going on, at least in the first couple months. And that was a big problem right at the beginning. So the communication was a huge disappointment from Stadia. So now we're talking about the actual launch coming up. So a week before launch, we had the announcement of the games that were coming to Stadia and what we can expect to play on launch day. And 12 games were announced. Yes, 12 games. So it's not a very high amount. Now, these 12 games are pretty decent games. However, the general perception regarding these games is like, these are old games and they're having a higher premium charge, or not necessarily a high premium, but like an original premium charge to the pricing of those games. And those games happen to be Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Destiny 2, The Collection, Guilt, Just Dance 2020, Kine, Mortal Kombat 11, Red Dead Redemption 2, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Samurai Showdown, Shadow of the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Thumper, and Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, with Destiny 2 being a free game for pro members. And another communication misstep regarding Destiny, at least at that time, was that founders were going to get Destiny 2 for free regardless. You don't have to worry about being a pro member. It's just yours. And there was some interesting things when it came to how it was being worded. And I think there's even a tweet, if you will, that does kind of hint that, okay, if you pre-order the Founders Edition, you are getting Destiny 2. Now, obviously, I don't think it was extremely locked into that. And you could kind of say, well, you will get it, but it's also part of a pro subscription. But a couple days later, because I think this had to do with certification of games, so I can't confirm that one way or the other, but a couple days later, after we found out that we'd have about 25% of Tomb Raider games to account for the 12, it dropped down to like 12% because an additional 14 games were announced for the platform. Good move, because obviously we want more games and we want the ability to choose and pick games. And they added these games to, it wasn't games that we didn't know weren't coming. It was just games that, well, they just weren't officially announced as coming during launch day. So the 14 games that were available for launch day or shortly after were Attack on Titan 2, Borderlands 3, Darksiders Genesis, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Farming Simulator 19, Final Fantasy 15, Football Manager 2020, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Grid, Metro Exodus, NBA 2K20, Rage 2, Trials Rising, and Wolfenstein Youngblood. And just before launch day, we found out that Google is going to also throw in Samurai Showdown as a part of the pro games. So you got 2 games right off the bat to try out the service. You didn't have to pay for anything. So you could try out 2 games that was going to test how the latency was with. And I think it was a good move on Stadia's part to show off a fighting game like Samurai Showdown to give you that idea of this is how pretty instantaneous your gameplay is going to be. So just play this game and you'll find out. Now, I don't think I've seen Samurai Showdown on any of my friends' lists since launch time, unfortunately. But the fact of the matter is, good move on Stadia's part, and it's kind of indicative of what the future is going to be when it came to the pro games in terms of the amount we're going to get. And of course, that's a big positive on Google's part. But the launch titles, I mean, it's hit or miss for you. So it's a very subjective thing. So you could be like, oh, these games are awesome. I haven't played any of these games. I have not had a console to do so. This is awesome. Other people are of the mindset that I have already played all these games. These are all old games. There's not new games here. Guilt is the only new game that I've never been able to play elsewhere. And Guilt, of course, another subjective thing. So you may like guilt, you may not like guilt, you may not be interested in guilt, or you may be like, what is guilt? So I can see why some people might be upset because they didn't have any new games. They didn't have the Call of Duties. They didn't have the Jedi Fallen Orders. They didn't have Madden or FIFA to join the ranks at the time, which I can see why people were a little upset on the outside. Here on the inside, there's a lot of games that I could find some time with, and I still do because a lot of these games are good and I just never really played them elsewhere. So it's a good move, I think, but of course that's in the eye of the beholder. And I would think that any console launch would be lucky to have these games that I've already mentioned, because look at the Xbox's original launch, look at the original PlayStation's launch, look at Nintendo Entertainment System's launch. None of them had this stellar lineup of games, and while you could claim they're old games, Brian, who gives a damn? The fact of the matter is you're getting stellar titles, and if you stuck around for even a couple weeks after launch, guess what? Tomb Raider was going to be one of those free titles as well. So, I mean, the ability that they kept on adding these titles that were very high quality, and they've been very highly praised. So Assassin's Creed, the Tomb Raider series, Red Dead Redemption 2. So all these games are here for people to play anywhere they want. Moreover than that, we're looking at something that is amazing, because just a couple weeks ago at the April Stadia Connect, we found out that EA is officially joining the Stadia team, as they are bringing Jedi Fallen Order, Madden, and FIFA to the platform. And as long as that Activision unicorn finds its way to Stadia, the third-party support on Stadia is already going to be better than the third-party support that you can find over on Nintendo Switch, which from a technical standpoint is probably one of Stadia's closest competitors, believe it or not. It's time to talk about Stadia's versatility that just simply outclasses the Nintendo Switch. Now, the Switch is my favorite console this generation, so I'm not saying this lightly. The fact that Stadia has the versatility that you just can't find with the Switch, because that's just not what the Switch is all about. With Stadia, you have the ability to play on your phone. You have the ability to play on your tablet. You have the ability to play on your Chromecast. You have the ability to play on your computer. Your laptops. I probably mentioned something twice already, but the fact of the matter is you can pick up and play anywhere you want. So say you're playing NBA 2K20 in your living room, you're like, you know what? I want to go in the office and play because I have some other stuff I'm eventually going to want to do. Let me finish up a little bit in there. And you're like, you know what? Forget that. I don't want to do that. I just want to finish the fourth quarter in bed. You can do that. Plug in your Android device and play Stadia on your phone mobily, and play as if you're playing on TV, just in a smaller environment and in a much more portable one at that. So Stadia's versatility is probably its biggest strength, in the ability that you can not only just play these games on any of these consoles, or not consoles rather, but any of these platforms like a computer or phone or your laptop or tablet. It picks up where you left off. So, I mean, as long as you do the whole 15-minute window here, it literally picks off at the exact moment, just like as if you were undocking your Switch and going to handheld mode. So the versatility that Stadia brings to the gaming world is just bar none, and is simply better than the Switch's mobility. Yeah, I said, I'm sorry. Now, from a technological standpoint, Stadia, simply put, it just works, all right? Now, of course, there are some things you need to have set up in your environment to make sure that it does work in a proper way. For me, unfortunately, right at the beginning, I had router issues in terms of I was using my ISP's router, which for whatever reason, which I'm not technically savvy enough to figure out why it was having these issues, I just couldn't figure out why that router particularly just didn't work well during certain times of the day. So when I got my new router, the Netgear Nighthawk AC1900, I believe it's called, all my issues went away. Of course, turning hardware acceleration on and off, it depends on your system, but that usually will fix any problem you have with the Chrome side of things. Everything went flawlessly from there. So, I mean, on my side of things, everything's good. Here's the thing. I'm not blind to the fact that my experience is not going to be the same as yours. And I even said that in my initial review a couple months ago, that my experience may not necessarily be the same as your experience. And that is a problem. And that if you're talking about the Chromecast, typically that experience is across the board the same. But everyone has a different computer. Everyone has a different phone. Everyone has a different laptop. Everyone has a different tablet. So, I mean, there is some things that will be different. And the thing that Stadia needs to do from this side of things when it comes to the technical is they need a true troubleshooting tool, not just something pop up that says, check your connection, reset your router, that kind of stuff. It needs to be able to identify why it is not working out for you. Maybe have some kind of frame rate counter, see how the graphical settings are. They need a way natively to be able to help you out and fix your connection, because it needs to be ease of use. That is the whole point of Stadia, that you can just jump right in and play. You don't need all this extra work to put on top of it, because some people either they don't know enough to fix it, or they don't care enough to fix it. And at that point, they're going to be like, Stadia sucks. It didn't help me at all. It sucks. It is exactly what I thought it was going to be. we don't need that. So Stadia, you need to get on top and make yourself a troubleshooting guide for sure. So people that do have issues can narrow down exactly why they are having these issues. Another issue that Stadia has had in the first 6 months is the marketing side of things. Marketing has been pretty non-existent. Now, of course, this is also in the eye of the beholder. Do you think TV ads are worth your time and money? Maybe not. Maybe not. But Stadia has, well, they really don't have a marketing plan. I share my videos on Facebook every now and then, and I have plenty of people at work or just in life in general say, what is Stadia? No one ever says, what is Xbox? What is Nintendo? What is PlayStation? People know what those things are. They do. They know they play video games. Stadia, people don't know that. So what does Google need to do? I personally don't have that answer. I'm not a marketing major. I didn't graduate with a marketing degree, so I don't know for sure. Otherwise, this would be a very different video. But it's also a video that could just be spent the entire time talking about. That's how big of a problem I truly think this is for Stadia, because this also goes into the general perception, making sure people know what Stadia is all about and what it can offer to people. And Chase from Stadia Talk probably has my favorite example of what they could do is make up a billboard. And it doesn't have to be a billboard, by the way, because it can be in digital marketing, it can be on TV, it can be in print if you really want to go that way. But all you need to do, I'll put this on the screen, is essentially you have Stadia on one side and you have the next gen console on the other side. Obviously, they're probably not going to say Microsoft or Sony on there, but you could just kind of be basic and say next gen. But on there, under Stadia, it says $0. Next to the next gen console, it'll say like 500, 600, whatever the cost will end up being of a next gen console. Underneath that, have a new game like Cyberpunk 2077 or the next Call of Duty, next Madden, whatever the case is, and put $60 under that, and then put a total line. And under Stadia, you have $60, and then on the other side, next gen console, you have something that says like $550, $560, $660, whatever the case may be, and you see that huge price difference, and you can find out right then and there that this is a gaming platform. People will know. You see Xbox or next gen console, and then you have a video game underneath, people will know immediately that this is a video game related thing. They'll see the Google logo, they'll see the Google Stadia logo, and they'll be like, okay, so Google has their own gaming service and it's free. So what do I need to do? They're going to go right home. They're going to look up Stadia. They'll find out more about it. They'll see me and they'll see me talking about it. Okay. That's the whole point. I want more people. No, I'm just kidding. The fact of the matter is the marketing needs to pick up because a lot of people are still just ignorant of Stadia. And I'm not saying that to be negative. I'm saying they just don't know enough about it or they don't know anything about it. And I think that's Google's fault. It's not anyone else's fault. Google's the one that needs to get their platform out there and let people know what it's all about. And of course, a lot of these issues might have come about due to what's going on in the world. So I can't necessarily throw that out of the way and say that has nothing to do with it because they themselves have said that marketing is one of their budget cuts that they have taken a part of due to the current global crisis. So I can't necessarily put all the blame on this, but there's still some things they can do. Other companies are still putting out commercials. Other companies are still putting out advertising. They can do something. They don't have to go full on board with it right now due to what's going on, but they can still make people known about Google Stadia. So here's the moment of truth you are all been waiting for. So if you happen to watch TSI episode number 3, you're going to know the answer to this, but here's my final grade for Google Stadia in the first 6 months. It is a C+. Now, I'm not saying that to be like, oh no, it's a C+, they're failing. By the way, C's and D's get degrees, so yes, they are passing right now. But from a technical standpoint, everything technically, Stadia's good. You're fine. You can keep working on it, and my hope for Stadia is that by the time the Series X and the PS5 come out, that those are pretty much obsolete because Google will have enough power in their side of things to pretty much say, hey, we're already outclassing you, bro. What do you got now? That is a goal that I think Google needs to have when it comes to Stadia and making it a better technical thing. But that's not why I'm grading it in any way. In fact, that's kind of lifted up the grade, if anything. But there are many missteps that Google's just had in the first few months of the service being here. The communication has been abysmal for the first few months. The fact that I had to wait days after the launch of Stadia, even though I pre-ordered to play Stadia, that's ridiculous. Especially it's a digital product. All I had to do was wait for an email. That was the problem. And the fact that those just weren't sent out automatically, big, bad move. Bad move. I hated it. A lot of people did. I made a video about it, so I want you to know this is not a 100% biased channel, okay? I know that's a complaint some of y'all folks have, but we do put some, you know, put some punches down on Google when they need it because, you know, they got to know that they got to work a little bit harder, all right? So, I mean, those were the bad things, of course. Marketing, something that gets picked up eventually. We'll get there. The game library, it's currently, yes, it's a little small. But, however, the games are coming. We know about, I believe, 40 games at this point that are still due to release this year. We've already had 20 new releases this year, and they have slated 120 games total for this year or more. So we have games coming. That's not been an issue. As soon as Activision comes on board, I think this is going to seriously start to take off, because that's going to be, I think, the last third-party company that you need on board to make your platform just a little bit more serious, because EA's on board, so it's a good start, which is more than right now what the Switch can say, even though they have Burnout coming, but they still don't have a Madden game. FIFA's there, but they're not going to get Jedi Fallen Order. They're not going to get these big games like Battlefield eventually, so they're on top of the Switch in this regard, so they can keep moving forward. If Activision jumps on board, get Overwatch, get Call of Duty, taken off. Now, there are some other negatives I didn't talk about. I think it's not good that some of these features just really haven't been there. And I kind of touched on it a little bit, but we still don't know anything about YouTube integrations. And that's like crowd play, crowd choice, the ability to stream from Stadia itself. The UI dashboard is terrible. It's terrible. And it's not like terrible in that it doesn't work or anything. It's just barren. I've had more options in my flip phone from 2005 than I do in Stadia. It's ridiculous. The messaging, the social integrations, just everything regarding the UI and the dashboard within Stadia is just lacking. It's not up to par. On the Switch, and I'm comparing the Switch a lot here because I think they are very comparable in terms of what they do offer from a technical standpoint when it comes to how you can game with it. Even they have the ability to post on Facebook and Twitter, which you don't have on Stadia. You have to go to your computer, download these clips, and do it yourself. When we all have these Stadia apps on our phones, why can't we just click a button from there and go from there? And you can't even download pictures and phones, or download pictures and videos on your phone. Why? Why are we here? This is 2020 and we can't do this yet? That's ridiculous, all right? Now, these are just some of the problems. I didn't want to go too full on board with it because this is already going to be a long video, but there's also some positive things I didn't touch on. Stream Connect is an awesome feature which you can find only in Ubisoft games at the moment. It's not an exclusive feature for Ubisoft. It's just they're the only developer to take advantage of it. So games like The Division 2 and Crew 2, you can see actual streams of what your teammates are doing in those games, which is a really cool feature to have in tactile-based games. Outside of that, there's other awesome features. The ability to play games without downloads, the ability to play without updates, things I have not touched on. There's plenty pros and cons that are still out there. And again, I didn't want this to be a 3-hour video because it could be. Like I said the other day in TSI number 3, we could have spent the entire stream just talking about these 6 months of Google Stadia because it's a very broad and very loaded question of how have they been doing. But enough of my thoughts. What are your thoughts? What were your grades for Google Stadia in the first 6 months? And is it worth your time and investment in the next 6 months? I would say yes, because we know the features will eventually come. We know the big games are starting to hit because we're about to get some big announcements because we're in the summer of gaming, folks. June is upon us. July is upon us. Gamescom, the Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley. A lot of things are starting to happen. The IGN Games Fest, or whatever they're calling it, because Stadia is a part of that too. So we have a lot of news that will be trickling in for Google Stadia, and it's only going to get better. But I want to know your thoughts. As I just said, leave it down in the comment section below. At me on Twitter at Club Stadia TV. Join the Discord, which is in the description. And in that Discord, there's a VIP members only Discord, which is what you get when you have a Club Stadia VIP YouTube membership, which means you get early access to videos like this one. And as soon as you join here on YouTube, I will make sure you are joined in the Discord so you can get immediate access to any new videos I do early. You'll also get shout outs and videos like this, and you'll be right here next to me as I'm talking about this at some point. Those are the members of this channel. I do thank you for your support because you guys are awesome. You guys are rock stars. And I think that's all I have for plugging because, you know, it's time to play some video games. So like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go play some video games, play Assassin's Creed. Thank you. Party on.